Welcome back, Shark Kings. It's that time of the month again. What games are actually leaving next month? The last chance to play. We did a prediction video last week, but this video is the real deal. No guessing, estimates, or predictions. Today is the day of the official announcement, so you get to learn what games are actually leaving and see how right or wrong our prediction video was. So these are all the games that are going to be leaving mid-March of 2025. So if you clicked on this video just for the name of the games, here is the official list of all the games that are leaving. Resident Evil 3, Life is Strange True Colors, Life is Strange 2, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Final Fantasy Type 0, Street Fighter 5, Mortal Kombat 11, and Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 6. And for our premium users, we have Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney Trilogy, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, All-Star Battle R. So if that's all the information you needed, thanks for watching and leave a like for the algo on your way out. Maybe subscribe to a channel that gives you the goods right away without forcing you to watch the entire long video, if that's your kind of thing. Now for those sticking around, we're going to dive a bit deeper into the games. It's generally spoiler free, we'll only tell you as much information as the trailers showed. Since this month's last chance to play is so similar to January's last chance to play, we're going to be comparing games from the same franchises and tell you what the difference is. So if you played those games back in January before they left, we'll give you a reason why you should or shouldn't play these ones. Or maybe you'll decide they're worth skipping instead. Either way, we'll save you time and expose you to some new things. And remember, if you're ever unsure and you want to see for yourself, this is how you access the last chance to play section. So if you're new to PlayStation Plus Extra, in the main menu, go all the way to the left until you see the yellow plus symbol. Click on that and press R1 twice. You'll be in the Collections tab. From here, just keep scrolling down until you see the last chance to play. So here is the full list. Right now, it's just below Ubisoft Classics. So let's get started. So the two major franchises we were right about because they followed the same pattern as January's last chance to play. These franchises you absolutely should play this month. Of course, I'm talking about Resident Evil and Life is Strange. Again, Resident Evil 3. So Resident Evil 2 left in January and Resident Evil 3 will be leaving in March. The neat thing here is these two games are intertwined. So if you followed our videos and got a head start on Resident Evil 2, then you've already been primed. The two games are closely interconnected. It's like a sequel and a prequel. Both games take place in September of 1998. Sort of like how in Resident Evil 2 you got to play two different stories through two different characters' POVs, this one is along the same line, but it doesn't reuse the same levels to the same degree. While in RE2 you got to play the exact same levels with both characters in different times, in this one it's an entirely different perspective, meaning that you'll still see some of the places the characters in RE2 visited, but they'll be more in the background and alluded to versus you actually exploring the same buildings and following their footsteps. There's a few characters and scenery that overlap, but it's an entirely new game. A gorgeous game, I might add. The remakes were designed to complement each other, so you can experience a more cohesive story of the Raccoon City incident. Aside from the story and thematic similarities, there's been some new improvements to the gameplay. They've added dodging mechanisms so you're not as useless when getting close to an enemy. Ammo crafting has been streamlined and is generally more action-oriented with faster-paced combat. You get better guns and more environmental things to blow up, but that also means that the enemies are going to be tougher to deal with. As far as the graphics go, the first thing you'll notice is how gorgeous the main character's textures are. RE2 was gorgeous to start with, but this one has that extra wow factor. I can't quite put my finger on it. Now, although RE3 does have a lower rating than RE2, the main criticism was that it was shorter. Now, normally, if you bought both with real money, I can see why you'd be disappointed, but since we're on PS Plus Extra and this channel focuses on short games, this is not a negative at all. RE3 has a shorter, more linear structure than RE2, with less puzzles and exploring opportunities, but the trade-off is more intense set pieces and action sequences. So in a way, it's the whole Alien versus Aliens debate again. But that's a whole other franchise, so let's move on to something lighter. The next game you absolutely should try is Life is Strange True Colors. Now again, revisiting January's predictions and the games that actually left, we lost the original Life is Strange and Life is Strange Before the Storm, which was the prequel to the original. Now, although those two games were connected, the ones that are leaving this month are totally not. They are both different characters in different cities with different powers that have nothing to do with each other. Some weren't even made by the same people, so don't worry about missing out on anything because you didn't get get to play the first one. You can play these games in any order and it doesn't matter. They are not related at all. So with that said, let's recommend the ones you should play, or can play on Extra, because the first one already left and that was the best one. Life is Strange True Colors is a great entry point in this series. If you haven't played any of the others, just see if this one hooks you in. The story stands completely on its own. It's an emotionally rich story about a girl running away from the foster care system that failed her to run off and live with her much more stable brother, who moved to a small mountain town in Colorado and is surrounded by a whole community that loves him. Every one of these games has some sort of power involved. Time manipulation, telekinesis, to something more subtle. This one is more in the later category. Alex Chan has the ability to see people's emotional auras and feel what they feel. So when they're angry, she gets angry. When they're scared, she becomes scared. This may seem like a useless power, but it has the added advantage of her accessing their memories as well. So we, as the player, can see why they're angry or scared, see through their eyes, and gain valuable insight, which helps us in these narrative games. You're going to be doing a lot of talking with branching conversations, and the responses and decisions you choose heavily influence the outcome of the game. So because of that, there are multiple endings and consequences to every single thing you do, which makes the mind reading a tad bit more useful. While the original is near perfect, the one lacking feature was its lip syncing. For some reason, the facial animations and the lips just didn't fit in with the voiceovers in quite a few scenes in the original. But in this one, all those kinks have been ironed out and the voice acting is just as strong. The visuals are stunning and it's got a great soundtrack, just like all the others, and the side activities and exploration you get to do makes Haven Springs feel like a real lived-in place. If you like games that aren't afraid to tackle emotional subjects while still retaining an element of hope, you're in for a treat. The NPCs feel like real people with real problems and emotions. The relationships between you and the NPCs and others feel meaningful, which makes the experience worth investing in. Now, to compare it again with the original, which is still the superior, True Colors is more about understanding people via your powers versus problem solving and fixing everything. The original had a mechanical focus on a cause and effect type puzzle solving, which was really fun because you got to try and retry conversation branches to see what every outcome would be and rewind time one final time to choose the one you were happy with. In this one, you only get one chance, but you do get that insight from sort of reading their minds. Did I mention you get multiple romance options? Anyways, let's move on. Life is Strange 2. Life is Strange 2 has quite the loading times. Life is Strange 2 is probably the weakest in the series and the longest too, so I'm going to recommend this one last out of the two that are leaving this month. Although it has a great road trip feel to it and deals with more systemic issues like racism, police brutality, and even political tensions, you do miss out on the exploration aspects of these games. They tried something different by making the characters run away from the law, which forced the scenery to keep changing, but as a result, you don't get to build deep relationships with the local NPCs like the other games. So it features a constant change of cast, which kind of dims the charm of these games. The character building of not just you, but people you interact with is a huge bonus. Also, I should have mentioned this first, but you don't actually have any powers. Your younger brother does. He has telekinesis. He can move things with his mind. You don't actually have any powers. All you do have is the power of influence over your little brother. It has the most challenging moral choices with no real clear right answers, and it's more of a survival type game in a way. It's quite ambitious and the most divisive because it strays from the formula the most. It takes risks and offers less comfort than, say, True Colors. No powers and you're constantly moving. It's the longest of the games, but don't let this little blurb discourage you. It's still a great story and really powerful way to show your actions have consequences. Not just yours, but to the little ones watching. Even if we're not the main character, we can still shape and influence the world around us, no matter how much the world seems against us. So if you have time, give this a try. And if you've already beaten both these Life is Strange games, well, congratulations, we get a brand new one today. Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. Moving on from the Life is Strange games, we have Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Now, going back to January's Last Chance to Play games, we see, along with Resident Evil and Life is Strange, we also lost Dragon Ball FighterZ. So yet again, here's another repeat, another Dragon Ball Z game, leaving exactly 2 months later. So if you're confused about the two games, here's the basics. FighterZ was a competitive 2D fighting game. It had the typical fighting game formula with combos and special moves and fast-paced action. It's more like the Marvel vs. vs. Capcom games. On the other hand, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is closer to an action RPG. You play in a 3D open world. You explore, you do side quests, and you level up your character. The game, although not as highly rated as Fighters, is much more about the story and reliving Goku's story. Players loved the authenticity in the storytelling, and the cutscenes and animations look just like the show. You get to experience so many key moments in Goku's battles from a fresh perspective. Also, you get to fly in a 3D open world, which is always a plus. Definitely beats walking. And because it follows the original story, you get some behind the scenes of what the side characters were doing during those big moments from the show. So if you're a DBZ fan who wants to experience Goku's story in a more immersive and interactive way, this will be right up your alley. The last franchise that had a repeat from January is Street Fighter. In January, we lost Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. And this month, we're losing Street Fighter V Champion Edition. Sounds confusing, I know. So let's go over the difference. So the game we lost in January was the 30th Anniversary Collection. It was all about the arcade classics, as you expect. These are the original games, and it takes generally a bit more skill to get really good at these ones. Whereas Street Fighter V is more of a modern addition to the series from 2016. It has improved graphics. It's generally seen as an easier place to get started in this franchise. Now you're probably wondering, what's the difference between Street Fighter V and Street Fighter V Champion Edition? Well, Street Fighter V was released in 2016 and the Champion Edition was released in 2020. Oh my god, now there's two versions of the same thing leaving the same month. Should I play both? What's the difference? Well, when in doubt, play the newest one. In this case, play the Champion Edition. Essentially, it's the 2016 version plus all the DLCs. So long story short, you get about 40 characters instead of the 16, and you also get way more, hundreds of cosmetics and dozens of more levels. The original release was criticized for not having enough content, and the Champion Edition addressed that problem. So if you like the Street Fighter franchise, get into Street Fighter V, because there's a lot of content to play with here. Mortal Kombat 11. Oh no, it's the two biggest fighting franchises. Or they used to be anyways. What can we say about Mortal Kombat? You know what to expect. Fighting, competitive, but way more gruesome than Street Fighter. Fatalities and a crazy out-of-this-world story. The story here continues the time-traveling narrative from MK10, featuring an all-new villain. It has the classics, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and a bunch of new guys. Its story mode was praised for its cinematic quality, and its combat was slowed down a bit to make it more about strategic fights. It has improved graphics and animations and is generally a pretty polished game. The game received pretty decent post-launch support, including crazy characters like Rambo, Spawn, and even RoboCop. It was seen as being accessible to newcomers while still maintaining the combat combo depth that the veterans are used to. This one was a new one for me, and I did not see it coming. It did not come to Extra 12 months ago. It did not come to Extra even 24 months ago. It wasn't on neither of those lists. It was released when PS Extra was first launched in June of 2022. So this game was released alongside Miles Morales, Death Stranding, Returnal, and God of War, which has me worried a little bit. Are the original games on the chopping block now? I swear, if they take Returnal, Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. Next, we have a Final Fantasy game, which is a surprise to many. They thought Final Fantasy games were safe. But the good news is, this is one of the worst rated ones in this series. Type 0, which sometimes is a typo, is a remastered version of a PSP game. It was originally only released in Japan, so because it was a PSP game, you can set your standards really low when it comes to the graphics. It's an action RPG like usual, but you control one character while the AI controls two others. It has real-time combat instead of the traditional turn-based. It's generally seen as a more mature game compared to others because it deals with themes of war, death, and sacrifice, but it's a grindy and difficult game at times. I probably would skip this one. Alright, the last one on the list is an exciting one. It's called Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 6, PS4 and PS5. Do I even bother talking about this one? When a game has a brand in the title, you know it's going to be a classic, right? It's a motorcycle racing game with licensed music and riders from the real Supercross Championship. If you like dirt bikes and creating your own courses, this may be up your alley. As a bonus, it does have split-screen local multiplayer, so I'll always give points for that, no matter how bad the game is. So if you're getting that nostalgia bug and want to revisit Excitebike 64, then get into this. Okay, so those were the games we got right. Let's go over the predictions that were wrong. I'm so happy this game is not leaving because although I did beat it, I didn't get the platinum yet for it. I'm not going to spend as much time talking about these games because they're staying for a little bit longer. We got Untitled Goose Game on Extra exactly 2 years ago, and it's going to be quacking around for a little bit longer. So if you haven't jumped into being a silly annoying goose, there's no time better than the present. It's a pretty good short game, and it's best experienced in co-op mode with a friend. So go be silly gooses together and annoy the groundskeeper. Okay, this one I got way wrong and I jumped the gun on it. It's a puzzler that uses numbers and basic math. You get a limited amount of moves to make your current map look like the map in the corner. At first, it's pretty straightforward, but it gets pretty tricky near the end. Some levels you'll get it on the first try and you'll get lots of confidence, and then you'll hit a wall and be tempted to look it up online. You'll be stuck for half an hour maybe, sometimes even an hour, or maybe that was just me. It's a short game technically, but that all depends on how long you get stuck on certain puzzles. I literally beat it yesterday, and that's saying something. That's a commitment to such a boring looking game. 100 levels. But I'm proud to say that I didn't look 1 out of the 100 solutions up. I did all 100 all by myself. Self high five. This is a game that if you get stuck, you just have to take a break and come back to it with a fresh mind. It's a great game to play in between other games, just for 5 minutes here and there. The puzzles are the main draw. Though there is a story there, it's very unnecessary and about Indian folklore, but no offense, you'll be skipping over it as fast as you can because it has nothing to do with the puzzle. And the narrator who speaks his native tongue, I'm not sure if it's Urdu. Indian fans, clear this up for me. I know you're watching.
ಈ ಗ್ರಾಮಗಳೆಲ್ಲವೂ ತುಂಗಭದ್ರಾ ತೀರದಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ದವು.
Anyways, the reason to skip the narration is not to be disrespectful to the culture or the story, but the voiceover guy's mic is terrible. The mic is so hot. The audio levels are always peaking, and it sounds like he's screaming at you or talking way too close to the mic without a filter. It's jarring to the ears. You can choose to hear it in different languages, but I like the authenticity of the original language.
ರಾಜ ಕ್ಷಿತೀಂದ್ರ ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ಮೂಲೆ ಮೂಲೆಗಳಿಂದ ಪ್ರಖ್ಯಾತ ವೈದ್ಯರನ್ನು ಕರೆಸಿ.
Here's the best part. I tried to see if a platinum was worth getting after beating the game, and guess which one trophy I missed. Yep. The trophy was listen to the voiceover stories without skipping them. So this entire last few minutes I've been talking about the voiceover. Yeah, I've been telling you to skip over them, and the game wants you to listen to them without skipping over them. That's pretty funny. The other games that were not leaving are Blood Bowl 3, Rage 2, and Super Neptunia RPG. I predicted wrong, and those games are not leaving. But I was correct in assuming the Ubisoft games would not be leaving despite them being released in March for us. So Rainbow Six Extraction and Immortal Phoenix Rising are safe because they are Ubisoft. And thank God Uncharted isn't going anywhere either. I didn't think that one would go in that video. Anyways, that concluded another update to the predictions video. Let's recap what we got right. We got Resident Evil 3, Street Fighter V, Dragon Ball Kakarot, Life is Strange 2, Life is Strange True Colors, and Final Fantasy Type 0. Mystic Pillars and Untitled Goose Game were wrong predictions. Or if you wanted to look at it in another way, the Monster Energy game and Mortal Kombat. The first and the last games are the only ones that we didn't predict in the last video. That's not bad. I screwed up big time. I thought I was giving you guys 2 weeks notice instead of 10 days, but I instead gave you guys only 1 week, even less time than usual. That's my bad. I released it on the wrong Tuesday. Scheduling error on my part. You were supposed to get that video a week earlier. I'll give you way better notice next month. Luckily, all the games I want to play and have already installed and started playing are short games. So I think I could beat all the games that I want to before the end of the month. If none of these games are on your backlog, congrats. If you're caught up on the Life is Strange games, well, enjoy that brand new one that comes out today. Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. I'm really excited that we're getting a day 1 Life is Strange game, even though they usually release episode 1 for free and try to hook us enough to buy the rest. I hear they're giving both tapes to us as they drop this time. I don't know if there are going to be future tapes beyond 1 and 2. Maybe it's just a 2-tape story. We'll have to wait and see. Anyways, thanks for watching these videos. Enjoy the new games that come out today, and until next time, be a friend, and I'll see you again.